Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Winged Supernova and welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. In the last episode we went around the various locations that we could visit. I believe we talked to Mr. Vigil, we also talked to Kazuma at Von Zeke's office, and we got to meet Dr. Maria Gori over there. And, well, we learned that Herlock is also involved in this case, and he was independently investigating it on his own time 2 years ago, and Iris was actually privy to the fact that he came here and took some records about this case straight from this room 2 years ago, because she was with him. And this is going to lead up to the stuff about her father. It really is. And she's going to learn that we all knew and we were trying to hide it from her. Not good. Not good, to say the least. But for now, it looks like Susato is saying, I don't believe we visited this place for some time when it comes to the crime scene, so let's go to the crime scene. Oh, there's a box. The police are still busily investigating in here then.
But Gina's nowhere to be seen. Where is she?
Yes, it has been blissfully quiet, hasn't it? Hey, come on now. Perhaps she's out investigating on her own, practicing what her boss taught her.
Well, I expect she'll be back before too long. Shall we wait?
Actually, there's something different about this room since the last time we were here, isn't there?
We could always use the time to investigate more thoroughly.
Well, I already investigated. I think it's just the box. This little trunk wasn't here before, was it?
Oh, it appears to be made of metal. It must be very heavy. I wonder to whom it belongs.
Maybe Gina, considering the color scheme, but it also could be Gregson. Ah, Tobias Gregson, okay.
There are some initials on the outside. Look, T.G.
Let's ask one of the policemen if they know how it came to be here.
Oi! What do you think you're doing?
Yep, there she is.
That's my trunk, that is! Hands off! Gina!
Where were you hiding?
I don't know. You leave something unattended for a few seconds and every Tom, Dick, and Harry's got his greedy eyes on it.
Just a wild guess, Gina, but...
What? Spit it out, Otto.
Is it fair to say that you've only owned that trunk since this morning's trial?
What? What are you trying to say? Come on, this trunk goes with me everywhere. Always has. Where have you been the last year?
Trying not to incur your wrath, mainly. I don't know much about her wrath. It's kind of just stealing things from you, more than anything.
You should hear them talking at the yard now. They should be ashamed of themselves. They're saying that it was the boss who killed all them bludgers.
Ah, you mean the whole Reaper thing?
Yeah. Apparently, the boss was investigating stuff that no one else at the yard knew nothing about. Stuff to do with all them criminals what got off scot-free.
Yes, the ones prosecuted by Lord Van Zeeks who used bribery and corruption to evade conviction.
Well then, obviously, it was that bloomin' Reaper giving the orders, weren't it?
But why would people be suspecting Inspector Gregson of being involved in the killings?
There was a notebook hidden in his office.
Oh no, this doesn't sound good.
It had details about all the crimes that had been pegged as the Reaper's work.
What?
No, did you see it, Gina? Did you see that notebook? They wouldn't flamin' let me, 'cause I'm just an apprentice apparently. But it was me who found it, and he was my boss. That's right. I was pretty miffed about it, so I sneaked a peek at what it said anyway. Oh!
That's our Gina. What was in it? What was in it? So, you managed to see what was written in Gregson's secret notebook anyway, did you?
Way I see it, it's my right to read what he wrote.
Oh boy.
And what had he written, Gina? Dates, times, places, names, and an all-on list of them. All details about the bludgeons supposed to have been done in by the Reaper. But there could be an explanation for that. Perhaps it was a record of the Inspector's investigations into the Reaper's activities. Exactly, that's what I said. That's the first thing you would think, right? As it happens, it was full of names I recognized anyway.
Well, the Reaper's targets were almost exclusively known leaders of London's criminal underworld.
Well, yeah, but there was one name right at the end that was a bit odd.
At the end of the list, you mean?
I'm pretty sure the date against it was 31st October. Oh, the day before the Inspector was found dead.
So, what was the odd name?
It weren't like a name I've ever seen before. It was something like, Nah, it's no good. I can't remember it. I don't think it was an English name, put it that way. Oh dear, what a pity. There was something else too. I don't know if it matters, but the same name kept coming up over and over. Shin, it was. Don't suppose it means anything, but...
Oh. That's big. Did you say Shin?
Eh? What does it... It does mean something?
Lord Van Zeeks knew the name, too. He mentioned her as well. The woman who actually did the deeds. And now we find out her name appeared in Gregson's secret notebook. We haven't seen you for a little while, have we, Gina?
Well, of course not. I've been busy, ain't I? Investigating and that. The lads at the yard are trying to trace the boss's movements the day before it happened.
The day before? That would be the undercover investigation into the Red-Headed League, then.
Only the boss didn't go, did he? You found some cove what was pretending to be him, didn't you, Otto?
Yes, it was Mr. Vigil who actually went to the park on Lime Street that day, posing as Gregson.
Well, anyway, you ain't the only one turning stuff up. I've got my own ways of getting results.
Toby!
When me and partner here get together, there's nothing we can't track down. Oh, little Toby. He's such a faithful friend.
So, have you tracked anything down then?
What do you think, eh? Of course we have. Can't tell you though. Police business, innit?
Ugh.
Anyway, the point is, if you lot over need any help, you know who to turn to, right? Me and the Hellhound here.
Right, because he looks oh so hellish, honest. What about Toby? Gina, about your Hellhound there. She put him down and then she has to bend over and pick him up again.
Chief Inspector Toby, you mean? He's the pride of the force, he is. In Japanese, police dog means something quite different and not altogether nice to those involved in crime. But here in Britain, it's a wonderful compliment, it seems, for a canine at least.
It should be. After all, in the Great Exhibition case the other day, it was Toby here who managed to locate Drebber's workshop.
Maybe it's time for another demonstration of what this super dog can do, eh?
Do we have something the Chief Inspector could catch the scent of, I wonder? Ooh. Oh, really? Well, let's think about this for a minute here. Is there anything that we want the location of? I mean, the Asogi papers, I don't know what that would do. Maybe catch the scent of Genshin Asogi, but we don't know if he's alive. Gregson's pocket watch. I don't know where that would take us. Oh, we don't know who this gun belongs to. We also don't know who the wig belongs to either. Because we don't think it belonged to Gregson, right? I'm thinking that's all we really have. It's the gun or the wig. Let's try the gun first, because we don't know whose gun it is, right? Well, Chief Inspector Toby, if you wouldn't mind having a sniff of this. It's very aggressive.
The Chief Inspector said woof to that, Otto.
Yes, I heard.
I think perhaps that particular item didn't excite him very much. Ain't you got nothing else?
I'll have a think. Interesting. Well, let's try again. It doesn't look like I can skip past the dialogue. Ah.
You want to see another demonstration of his amazing nose, eh? Well, we're trying to trace Inspector Gregson's movements, so... Come on, Otto. What you got for him?
Okay, so that's the hint there. We're trying to track his movements. We don't know where he was going and what he was doing. I mean, I'm gonna try this. I don't know, though.
Take that!
It's the same line. He's still sniffing. He might be a little too keen, don't you think? What? Damn! Woof! Ah, look what he's gone to.
Oh my, that trunk clearly still has a very strong scent of Inspector Gregson.
In other words, it must have belonged to him.
Oh, alright, it's a fair cop, I suppose.
And you nearly got away with it, too.
You always talk so proudly of Chief Inspector Toby's nose and what it can achieve. Did it not cross your mind that he might identify something that was right next to us? Yeah, that was a bit of a bloomer, weren't it?
That's enough now then, Gina.
Eh?
I think it's time you told us the truth about that trunk. Ah, so this gives us the ability to look at the trunk.
It weren't like that. It just weren't.
What are you talking about?
I know what's going through that head of yours, but that ain't what happened.
Alright then, what did happen?
Well, like I said before, we were trying to trace the boss's movements. So I let Toby here have a whiff of the boss's overcoat. And as soon as I'd done that, he went off like a shot. Straight to that sandwich.
To a sandwich? Not to a bag of chips?
Mr. Naruhodo, I believe Gina means the witness.
Oh, interesting. Oh, I forgot about that sandwich.
Yeah, he had it hidden between them wooden boards of his, the boss's trunk.
That's odd. You mean when they heard the sound like a gunshot and all piled in here?
Exactly. He nabbed it from the scene. Goodness. Me and the Chief Inspector gave that sandwich a good grilling, and you know what he said?
I thought it might fetch a good price and the chap wouldn't be needing it anymore, so... But that's all I did. Nothing more, nothing less.
Would you Adam and Eve the cheek of it, eh? Stealing the dead boss's stuff to flog.
So Miss Venus wasn't the only one to meddle with the scene of the crime then. I don't know if that's illegal in this time, but I would assume so.
How could they? So anyway, that's how it happened. And it's a pretty decent trunk, so I figured I might as well make use of it. Is there something wrong with that, eh? Well?
Maybe you and Mr. Sandwich should try to find the answer to that question together. So what's in the trunk? What's in the trunk?
I think perhaps that trunk should be turned over to the police, don't you? What are you on about? I am the police!
Gina, if you wouldn't mind, could we maybe examine it?
Yeah, alright then. Do what you want with it. Thank you. We shall make a detailed record of our examination of the evidence.
Alrighty then. We finally get something to do here. Uh-oh. What is Toby angry at? What's the matter with Toby? Why is he acting so aggressively towards me all of a sudden?
Mr. Naruhodo, be careful. It must be the trunk.
Whoa! Ah!
Toby, oi, what are you doing? You're gonna lick his face off. Mr. Naruhodo! Mr. Naruhodo! Gina, quickly, hail a carriage.
What a crazy... Oh boy.
Oh, Mr. Naruhodo, are you alright?
Miss Susato. Oh, hi, Herlock. Ah, conscious at last, again at last. A blessed relief, my dear fellow. After all, to drop dead after a moderate licking by a small terrier, most unseemly.
What is or isn't
I love that animation.
What is or isn't seemly isn't relevant here, Mr. Sholmes. I'm so glad there's no lasting damage. How are you feeling?
I'm fine, thank you. Did you bring me back here? Ah, what's this on my head? A bandage? Sadly, we had no ice, so that's a compress of sugar water. Sugar water?
Don't worry, Mr. Naruhodo. It's a first aid treatment that my father taught me.
Oh, thank you. So, let us take our tea when you're feeling up to it. But of course, no sugar in the patient's cup. Ugh, the bump on my head is throbbing sweetly enough, don't worry.
Whenever you feel ready, then.
So we got multiple people here. Well, first, I want to check the court record and look at the trunk. We have a gouge and a blood stain. And we haven't even seen what's inside of it. We have a gouge here. Have you seen this huge gash across the side of the trunk here? It's gone right through the leather and into the metal behind.
Gosh, for a metal chest like this to have been so badly damaged, whatever made the gash must have struck the side of the trunk with considerable force.
I wonder how it happened. I was gonna check and see if there's something lodged in right there, but it doesn't seem like it. And we have a blood stain over here. Look at this dark stain here. Do you think?
Yes, I'm afraid so. I think it's blood.
Ugh, I knew you were going to say that. So that presumably means
that this was present at the scene when Inspector Gregson was killed.
It's the most logical conclusion, yes. To think Gina's been carrying this around with her. If you didn't know any better, I suppose it does look like a grease stain from all the fish and chips. No, it really doesn't. Can we check it, though? Can we open it? Let's have a look inside. Okay. I was gonna say that there looked like there's something on top, but apparently not. We got a letter. A couple of bottles of something, a book. A glasses case, another journal, and this big note on top. Look, there's something inside.
Ooh, let's see. It appears to be a passport, authorizing him to travel overseas.
Was Inspector Gregson about to go on a trip abroad then?
Perhaps the date of departure might tell us something. That was... Oh, what is it? It was for travel on October 31st, just one day before the incident. What? Really?
Ooh, interesting. So it was issued for travel to France. That doesn't mean that he went to France. I guess they're saying it does mean he went to France, but I thought that maybe that just meant that it was issued for him to be able to go to France. I know that's not how passports work nowadays, but I don't know how they worked back in the early 1900s, especially not for a foreign country like Britain. Gregson went to France the day before his body was discovered? So we can check it. ACD 0522. Date of departure within 1 week from 31st of October. Okay. So, yeah, he could go anytime from the 31st of October to 1 week afterwards. Destination, Port of Dunkirk, France. Purpose of travel, police business. Notes, permission for the applicant and one additional person to travel. So this might be the thing that, this might be the thing that he was telling us about, that he was being transferred, and that he wanted Gina to come with her, or to come with him to protect her, potentially. But, okay, so what to do, that's not worthwhile at the moment. So, Sholmes, what is up? Thank you for your concern, Mr. Sholmes. My dear fellow, think nothing of it. I must say I was quite startled when I heard that you'd been attacked by a dog. For a moment I feared that the infamous murderer of so many had come back from the dead. You mean the professor? Fortunately, I see your prized throat is unscathed. That stiff, upturned collar of yours obviously afforded some welcome protection. Was I that close to death? All I really remember is the dog licking my face over and over and over again. Well, if you wish to avoid such troubles in future, a little mustard spread on the cheeks should do the trick. I should think that would balance the sweetness of your bandage rather splendidly. Alright. So that didn't give us much of anything either. Do I actually just need to talk with Susato then? Do I actually have to do the what to do?
Are you alright, Mr. Naruhodo? It's rather unusual to find ourselves here in the middle of our investigations.
It's just occurred to me that I might have forgotten something when we left this morning.
Please don't worry. As long as you continue to investigate thoroughly, you won't go far wrong.
Oh, yes, of course. I must get back to work as soon as possible. Okay, nothing. Can I check the spade? Nope. It's all the same. I guess we move now? Because we can't present anything to Sholmes. And he's just kind of standing there and doesn't give us much. I'm just looking through the, yeah, nothing other than this one that looks like the dialogue's changed. So maybe we do need to go down here. What in the actual fuck is going on right now? Why does Mikotoba have the mask on? Why is the vase broken? Why is Iris looking sad? Did she poison him? What on earth is going on in here? Am I having a bad dream? Ah, no, it's an old German folk song. Rather a fine rendition, I think. That's the least of my concerns.
Iris?
Oh, she's turned away from us.
Iris, what's the matter? Ooh. Who is that sprawling, that relaxed gentleman over there?
That looks like your dad.
Iris? Is she even listening?
She's definitely listening. Excuse me, sir. I do apologize for troubling you whilst you're singing so merrily, but would you be kind enough to explain the situation? So even he doesn't really know. Well, that worked. A crooning gentleman and a mute young girl. A rather tantalizing juxtaposition. And one that appears to have incited the gods of deduction within me to find their voices, too. Uh-oh, we're doing this, huh?
Ah, Mr. Sholmes, do you mean?
The strings of reasoning within me are playing now as a delightful duet. One melody sings of a reunion full of nostalgia, whilst the other is a morose theme about the great secret you're trying so desperately to conceal, Iris. She's turned as white as a sheet.
So as usual, you've instantly seen to the very heart of the matter.
And by the time my own brief performance is over, I feel sure this gentleman's song will reach its finale. So then, to Music Land, where all is sweetness and delicacy and harmony. Pray, do enjoy Herlock Sholmes' latest logic and reasoning spectacular. Right into it. I was wondering if we were going to have another one of these. Did not expect it to be with this, though. Firstly, we consider the gentleman's nationality. Clearly, he's a German with no grasp of the English language, as evidenced by the Germanic song he sings and his apparent inability to understand when asked to desist. So, why is the man here at all, and in such apparently high spirits? The answer, of course, Iris, is clearly known to you. Indeed, we need only follow the gaze of those bright young eyes to unravel that particular part of this mystery. The reason for the man's mildly irritating warbling is revealed by the herbal tea. You obviously offered our Germanic guest a cup of your latest herbal blend. The tea's delectable flavor has made the man's spirits soar, and resulted in this joyful ditty tumbling incessantly from his... Oh my god. I eagerly await sampling the flavor myself that I may join the fellow in his state of elation. She shakes her head, too. Now to the next question. Who exactly is this gentleman availing himself so thoroughly of the settee? As it happens, a number of years ago now, a certain gentleman of German origin engaged my services in solving a particularly delicate case. He required the retrieval of letters once sent to an acquaintance that might have proved problematic. In order to conceal his noble identity, he also arrived at my office in a mask. The gentleman's name was Wilhelm Gottsreich Sigismund von Ormstein, the King of Germany. If my memory serves, the mask worn by this gentleman is identical. Yes, there can be no question. That mask belongs to the King of Germany. It would appear that His Majesty remembers the fine service I awarded him, and has decided to show his face again, mask and all, in order to express his gratitude. A well-mannered monarch indeed, wouldn't you agree, my dear fellow? So the identity of this masked visitor is in fact my former client, the King of Germany. Indeed, his son is currently in London as well, enjoying the wonders of the Great Exhibition. So that's why I had heard his name before. Which leaves us with one remaining imponderable. Yes, you, young Iris. But your apparently inexplicable silence is unable to hide the truth. Ooh, she's hiding something behind her back. Yes, the reason for your muteness is concealed inside that knapsack. A 5-pound note, I believe. I must say, your compatriot. As your compatriot, I'm deeply saddened. It would appear that you've allowed yourself to be bribed into silence by His Royal Highness, earning yourself some spending money in exchange for keeping quiet about the King's secret. And now, the final piece of the puzzle. What is the secret you strive to hide with your silence, Iris? Ah, yes, we need only follow that brief involuntary twitch of your eyes to find the answer. You were attempting to abscond with that coffee cup. My favorite coffee cup, in fact. Or should I say, the handle of my favorite coffee cup? It appears that His High-Spirited Highness broke it in the midst of his hijinks. Which leads us to the sad truth. My favorite coffee cup has been broken by the King of Germany, and Iris, you tried to conceal it from me. I shall have a bill sent via governmental channels to the German royal family for its replacement. Please don't do that. Thus concludes Sherlock Sholmes' great deduction of this painful puzzle. This music is ominous as hell. With your silence as well, the fellow's jovial warbling rather rings in the ears, does it not?
Mr. Sholmes, I must say something does rather trouble me.
Pray, Miss Susato, do tell.
His Royal Highness doesn't appear to have moved a muscle since we arrived.
Ah. And you haven't said a word either, Iris. Mr. Sholmes has it all right. You might as well own up to it now. Your reasoning isn't entirely without substance, I must admit. And one other thing, Mr. Sholmes. Yet another grievance, Mr. Naruhodo? Surely not. Well, I actually read the story of that case recently, the one you were just describing. And according to that, at least, it wasn't the King of Germany. It was the King of Bohemia. That's what I was thinking. I was like, wait a minute. Isn't Bohemia different from Germany? I don't think it exists anymore. I might be wrong about that, but I don't recall a current country by the name of Bohemia. Goodness, was it?
Yes, that's quite true. Master Gotz, the prince, testified to that in court. In his words, I have come to see the great exhibition all the way from my home in Bohemia.
I would ask you to keep that minor error to yourselves. It could easily become quite a scandal.
I believe, Mr. Naruhodo, that it's our turn now to make some corrections to a number of minor errors that may have slipped in.
Yes, even Mr. Sholmes is willing to admit he might be slightly wide of the mark this time. Although it's clear that Iris is definitely hiding something. We need to find out the truth behind this mysterious scene. But one truth is incontrovertible. My favorite coffee cup is no more. So, shall we embark again on a joint presentation of Sherlock Sholmes' Logic and Reasoning Spectacular? Hold it, Mr. Sholmes! This is probably not going to end up well. Firstly, we consider the gentleman's nationality. He's not German. He's Mikotova. I don't know how they don't recognize him and his big-ass mustache. He's here to talk to Iris. Probably about her father. You're correct. All we need to do is follow her eyes, and it's not at the coffee cup. It's at the man himself. So what? It's some mix of herbs that gives you the urge to sing? Oh boy. Whew. I need to learn how to control my breathing better because I'm starting to yawn and it's the middle of the day.
Goodness, I should like to try some.
And I'd like to hear your singing, but this man... Just how long does he intend to keep up with that tune, do you suppose?
As I said, he's been stock still the entire time, and if you look closely, his lips aren't moving either.
Ah.
So I'm not sure what's actually responsible for the spirit is singing, but I suspect the answer lies at the end of Iris's gaze.
Maybe it's the gramophone, potentially? Wait, this
is a gramophone, still rarely seen in our own country. The sound certainly appears to be coming from the horn.
But machine singing? That can't be right.
Science and technology are changing the world rapidly, Mr. Naruhodo. What's right is changing too.
Ugh, it's too much for my brain.
Well, at least we found our answer.
Well, yeah, it's asking what's the actual source of this that boisterous singing. It's the gramophone. The real reason for the man's mildly irritating warbling is revealed by the gramophone. Indeed, for no well-bred gentleman would break into an obscure folk song when making a social call. In other words, this gentleman isn't singing at all. In fact, it would appear that the fellow is unconscious. Ah, the music seems to have stopped now. Took long enough. I ask you, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes? Why would I have purchased a recording of that gibberish? How should I know? Well, never mind. On with the deduction. Who exactly is this gentleman availing himself so thoroughly of the settee? Oh boy, we gotta go through this again. His long-ass story about the King of Germany that wasn't even German. Quite a lot of dialogue. It is not the King of Germany. Although we've already established that it was actually the King of Bohemia.
It seems Mr. Sholmes intends to persist with his Germany theory for some reason.
Come to think of it, the young prince was wearing a mask as well, wasn't he?
Master Gotz? The boy whom you had in tears?
Don't remind me, or anyone else.
Do you suppose all members of the aristocracy of mainland Europe wear masks?
I'm sure they do. Well, probably anyway. The point is, that mask doesn't belong to any king.
No, that's right, as we well know. Because we can identify the true owner of this mask.
Yeah. It's, Mr. Kazuma. Yes, there can be no question. That mask belongs to Kazuma Asogi. In other words, my memory is sublimely unreliable. Only you can try to make that sound positive. Kazuma's mask has been languishing on this metal chest for several days, though that doesn't explain why the gentleman is wearing it now. But it is now a simple matter to determine our guest's true identity. After all, the gentleman is unconscious. We need only excuse ourselves in advance, gently lift the mask, and peer beneath it. It's Mikotoba. I don't believe it.
Ah! Father!
I'm afraid, Miss Susato, you must be
No, I think not, Mr. Sholmes.
Then it would appear our logic and reasoning has once again revealed the truth. Oh boy. This mysterious visitor
is my unconscious father, Eugene Mikotoba.
Well, no shit. Logic and reasoning, or just looking and saying? Thank you, Ryunosuke. Knew that as soon as we saw him in his suit and his hat. And his mustache, of course. Which leaves us with one remaining imponderable. Yes, you, young Iris. But your apparently inexplicable silence is unable to hide the truth. Yes, the reason for your muteness is concealed inside that knapsack. I don't know about that. So that's a 5-pound note poking out from Iris's knapsack, is it?
Oh dear, I can't be sure. Most money that we encounter is in coin form.
I know. I'm not even sure if we've seen any banknotes here in Britain at all, have we?
But anyway, Father would never have paid money for Iris's silence.
He certainly seems like the silent type himself, though, judging by his present state. There must be some other reason for Iris's silence, I suppose.
Perhaps what Iris has tried so hard not to give away with her eyes is something entirely different.
Metal chest, possibly? Yeah, because she was looking behind her. Whoa, that was weird. Yeah, I think it's the metal chest.
This metal chest? It contains important documents, doesn't it?
Yes, details of all the cases Mr. Sholmes has worked on over the years. Written up by Iris's father, if I'm remembering correctly. Iris insists that the chest is kept locked at all times. She's never once shown me inside.
Well, its contents are invaluable to her, I suppose, and entirely irreplaceable. But look at it now. The catch is unlocked for once.
Ah, so it is. That's hard to ignore.
Very. I've never seen that chest unlocked before in all the time we've been staying here at Baker Street.
Yeah, that's definitely it. Here we go. Yes, the reason for your muteness is concealed inside that metal chest. An excellent observation, for upon closer inspection, there is something different about the chest's appearance. It's kept locked at all times, yet now the catch is open. Evidently, this has something to do with your refusal to speak, Iris. But it's a simple enough matter to incite you to speak, I'm sure. I merely need open this chest. Yeah, for some reason they made that a Ryunosuke line. I feel like that's supposed to be a Sholmes line. Here we go.
No! Hurley, don't!
Damn! Oh, so that's why it happened. That's funny as hell. Same position and everything. He's dead.
Never! Oh, Hurley, I told you not to open it.
Ah, so you found your voice now, Iris.
Ah!
In other words, what just happened clearly reveals the truth here. Yes, the real reason for your silence until now is...
This is somewhat different to the usual dance of deduction you perform with Mr. Sholmes, isn't it?
Well, he's left me alone on the ballroom floor, so I'm going to have to dance this next part solo. I don't think most dances happen. I don't think most rejections on the dance floor happen with someone getting punked with a giant boxing glove, but, you know, I haven't watched that many crazy 80s movies, so maybe it does happen more than I know. And anyway, I need to get to the bottom of this for my own peace of mind. Now then, Iris isn't usually the silent type, so...
You mean you don't actually know the answer yet? Despite that knowing point of the finger before.
Miss Susato, sometimes a man needs to point his finger first and think later.
Oh, well, if you say so. I think we'd better examine Iris more closely and try to rescue the situation then.
Ah, she had the key in her mouth. That makes sense. I wondered if she took something out of her mouth when she did that animation before. Yes, the real reason for your silence until now is that key behind your back.
Ah!
When Mr. Sholmes was thrown into the air before. Yeah, she did do it. I thought so. Just before you called out to try to stop him, you slipped something out of your mouth. That something is the key now in your hands, no doubt the key to the chest.
You're so clever, Runo.
So now it becomes clear. Thanks to Mr. Sholmes' graphic demonstration, we can well imagine what happened here.
But...
Professor Mikotoba also opened that metal chest only to be punched into the air and land sprawled on the settee.
But wait, that doesn't explain all the facts. What about the stylish scarf and the cup of tea? And above all, why would he be wearing Kazuma-sama's mask?
Well, for those curious details, I can think of only one explanation. Clearly an unbelievable miracle took place in this room. Isn't that right, Iris? Oh, yeah, that was all on there, wasn't it? Consider how the room was arranged before this whole painful experience took place. When Professor Mikotoba opened the chest, completely unaware of what awaited him inside, the mask was flung into the air just as he was, only to land neatly on his face when it fell back down. And the teacup's journey through the air ended when it caught on the unconscious professor's finger.
You mean to say that the stylish scarf
is actually just a tablecloth. This is the great detective's office, after all, a place of miraculous deductions. Are you gonna have to do it with me? Didn't miss a beat. Would you expect anything less?
Yes, you're right. It happened exactly as you said. Brilliant, Runo.
Thus concludes Ryunosuke Naruhodo's great deduction of this punchy puzzle.
So then, why don't I make a fresh pot of tea for us all?
Objection!
Whoa. An admirable performance, Mr. Naruhodo. But in the final act of the show there, you rather missed everything of importance. Mr. Sholmes, if you would cast your mind back to my earlier deduction. Iris, clearly you're hiding a great secret. Oh, she's trying to get away with something there. Sweeping it under the rug like, oh, you did a good job, and then trying to get away.
Ah!
She is? From the look on her face. Mr. Sholmes must be right. Whatever that great secret is, the cat isn't out of the bag yet. So I put it to you again. You were attempting to abscond with that coffee cup. I don't think that's a coffee cup.
It really is a shame about Mr. Sholmes' cup.
It must have been smashed when Professor Mikotoba opened the chest.
Oh dear, so many things seem to have broken here.
But now that the deduction has taken a different direction, Iris doesn't seem to be trying to hide the broken cup anymore.
In other words, her great secret is something else.
Let's put our observational skills to work here on one final time then. I see it underneath already. She hit it. A case file.
Ah, look! There seems to be more papers there. Is Iris trying to hide them underneath the tray? The insignia, Mr. Naruhodo. It's an official Scotland Yard document. What? But why would Iris have? We must ask her.
An official Scotland Yard document?
Take that!
Boom. You were attempting to abscond with that case file. Iris, as you know very well, nothing escapes the attention of a great detective.
Oh no!
We visited Scotland Yard's autopsy laboratory earlier today, and Dr. Gorey informed us that the autopsy report of Clint Van Zeeks had gone missing. Clint Van Zeeks. Yes, I do seem to recall that some years ago I asked to see the report in question. You were with me, weren't you, Iris? You mean it was you, Iris? So those papers you have there are...
I'm sorry. Forgive me!
Damn. Well, I think we still have time here. Let's find out why. In truth, I would like to have thought I could have predicted the booby-trapped chest. But it caught me completely off guard. I was very nearly the late consulting detective Herlock Sholmes.
I'm sorry, Hurley.
You mean this autopsy report really is?
Yes, I took it from the lab, even though I knew it was very important. Was there something in it that troubled you, Iris? Not exactly something that troubled me. Something I'd been looking for. When I saw this report, when I saw the writing in it, I knew it was Daddy's.
The writing?
Your father's writing? What do you really mean?
Iris? Must be something that's hard for her to talk about. Forgive me for interrupting, my dear fellows. Mr. Sholmes, what is it? Don't do it. I feel as though the poor unconscious gentleman on the settee has been somewhat forgotten.
Ah! Father!
Perhaps we should find our guest somewhere more peaceful to rest. Mr. Naruhodo. Yes? Would you be so kind as to lend him your bed? We must do our very best to make him comfortable, I feel. Oh, yes, of course. I'll help you carry him up.
So will I.
No, I can manage alone, thank you. You have tea to enjoy. We wouldn't want Iris's brew to stew. Because there's no better way to make the professor comfortable than dragging him upstairs like a trunk. I wonder, perhaps that was deliberate. Oh, it absolutely was deliberate. He not only wanted to avoid the topic of Iris's father, but he might want to speak to us alone without Susato for some reason. Maybe Mr. Sholmes is making himself scarce to give Iris the chance to talk more freely.
We must use this opportunity to talk with Iris.
Okay, so we're not actually going upstairs. I misread that. And find out what's going on. Let's do it. Not ending the episode yet. Would you like to tell us about it, Iris? About your father?
I'm sure I told you before, didn't I? That Daddy used to be Hurley's partner. Yes, and that notes about all the cases they solved together are kept inside that metal chest. That's right, Hurley told me, you see. He said that Daddy's somewhere far away now, so we can't meet.
That's one way of describing it.
Then, when I secretly unlocked the chest and read through the papers inside, I started to build up a picture in my head of what Daddy must be like.
Well, that's only natural.
You're just like any other girl of your age. I read that Daddy was a professor of medical science, so I studied and took my degree too.
Well, that's only natural, I suppose.
In that respect, you're not quite like any other girl of your age, though. But there was one thing that I could never find out. Daddy's name.
Ah,
His name wasn't anywhere on any of the notes that he'd made about his work with Hurley. But then one day...
that's what happened, is it? When you saw this autopsy report, you finally managed to work it out. Is that right?
Yes.
So it was the handwriting in the report that caught her eye.
When I saw the writing on that report, I could hardly believe it. I know that handwriting,
I thought to myself. Because it was the same as the writing you'd seen on your father's case notes?
Exactly. I was desperate to compare the two properly. I needed to see them side by side. I asked the doctor in the laboratory, but I was told I couldn't take the report away. And even worse, I was told that was the first and last time we'd be allowed to even look at it there.
So you decided to steal it.
When I compared the autopsy report with the case notes I had here, there was no doubt. The handwriting was exactly the same. It was Daddy's. And the signature of the coroner at the bottom of the autopsy report
read Dr. John H. Wilson.
So that's how I finally found out. I learned Daddy's name at last.
I see.
Ever since then, I've called myself Iris Wilson. And that's also when I had the brilliant idea of writing stories all about Daddy's exciting times with Hurley. I decided then and there I'd write The Adventures of Herlock Sholmes. Oh, Iris, I had no idea the stories had quite such a deep personal significance for you.
I can see why the autopsy report was so important to her now. And why she was prepared to break the law to get her hands on it. I must apologize, Iris. This is really all my fault.
Hurley?
I made a promise, you see, that until the time was right, I'd keep the details about your father a secret.
I know. I've been very naughty. I'll take the autopsy report back to Dr. Gorey and apologize. I promise.
Yes, we'll go together, I think.
Then, let me look after it for you until we get there.
Good. We can actually look at this for a minute. And we shall. Clint Van Zeek's coroner was actually Dr. John H. Wilson at the time. So there was a swap. That's interesting. So there was a swap between Iris's father. From the time that Clint died, there was a swap over from Iris Wilson's father to how did I forget her name? The other one. Courtney Scythe, that's it. Courtney Scythe. Yes. There was a swap over between coroners, and one of her first autopsies was probably the professor himself, because they found out who it was in the span of like a week or two, right? So it was pretty soon. Time of death, 31st of May, between 9 p.m. and midnight. Observations, death from a single stab wound to the heart. Other superficial external wounds indicative of a duel. Interesting. So they had a duel. Additional notes. Recent scarlet ink stains visible on the little and ring fingers of the right hand, but no document in corresponding ink was found. Huh. The little and ring fingers of the right hand. I can't think of what that would be. Vital evidence recovered from the victim's stomach during autopsy. Credit to Inspector Gregson for petitioning so doggedly for the autopsy procedure. And they're not going to tell us what the vital evidence was, of course. No internal trauma noted anywhere in the body. So it was swallowed voluntarily? That's so weird, though. Wait a minute. So it was recovered from his stomach, but there was no internal trauma noted anywhere in the body? If there was no internal trauma, then that would mean that it's almost as if the object that was retrieved from the victim's stomach was supposed to have been swallowed, right? Because if it's something that you're not supposed to swallow, it would typically cause abrasions and internal bleeding and all kinds of nasty stuff. At least you would think.
I must go and water my herbs, I think. I'll see you all later.
Poor Iris. She must be feeling awful. I know Mr. Sholmes is here for her, but still.
Ah! What? How? What's the meaning of this, Mr. Sholmes?
Mr. Sholmes? Oh, dear me. So, you've noticed, I see.
But that would mean...
What on earth's the matter, Miss Usato? You've turned as white as a sheet.
It's this autopsy report, Mr. Naruhodo. The one from 10 years ago.
The writing.
The writing isn't Dr. Wilson's at all.
Oh. Huh? What do you mean? How could you possibly know that?
Because I know this writing very well. This writing... It's my father's.
What? Professor Mikotoba's? Indeed, it's true. And now you know, my dear fellows. No, I don't know anything. What on earth does all of this mean, Mr. Sholmes? So there's two possibilities here. Because she said that all of the notes that were... She said that all of the notes that were in the thing that she had as mementos of her father, quote-unquote, Dr. John H. Wilson, that the writing matched, right? That would mean that Mikotoba was the quote-unquote Watson to Herlock Sholmes, right? Because he would have been working with him on those cases beforehand. But where does that leave Dr. John H. Wilson, is the question. It could be that they are one and the same person, but I highly doubt that, considering that he was the very first victim in the first Great Ace Attorney game. Yeah, I highly doubt that. Not quite sure yet, because the idea that's slowly forming in my mind is just too extraordinary to believe. Please, you have to explain. Oh, this is going to be a longer episode. We're not stopping yet. So this autopsy report was actually penned by Professor Mikotoba then? It was signed off as Dr. John H. Wilson. But that makes no sense. It's not possible, surely. Not possible. My dear fellow, pray take a deep breath and think again.
Yes, you're right. In some ways, it actually makes a great deal of sense.
It does?
10 years ago is when Father returned to Japan after his extended study tour in Britain.
And prior to his return, where was Dr. Mikotoba engaged? Ah, of course. He was an assistant in Dr. Wilson's laboratory, learning about forensic science. Yeah, I got that part. And as an assistant, he would have aided with the dissection work, making detailed notes, which would be assembled into the full autopsy report. Once the work was complete, the head coroner would check the contents and put his signature on the document. So that's what happened. So he he did the real autopsy for Clint Van Zieks, and then Dr. Wilson signed off on it.
In other words, the only writing of Dr. Wilson's in the report would be his signature at the end.
I see. So Iris got the wrong end of the stick, you meant? She saw that and assumed the whole report had been written by Dr. John H. Wilson.
Which is very understandable, of course.
What a complicated situation. But what does that mean? Does that mean that Mikotoba was your partner? Thinking about it, most of what we know about you, Mr. Sholmes, comes from the published stories of your exploits.
Yes, The Adventures of Herlock Sholmes, written by Iris.
And we really have no way of knowing what's fact and what's fiction. Most troubling for you, my dear fellow, I'm sure. So what about the supposed partner of yours? Did he really exist or not? Ah, you've come straight to the point, I see.
And please come straight to the answer.
I believe Iris explained it in one of her installments. He was a trusted comrade, and the only person I could have truly called a friend.
And did this partner of yours truly make a record of all your cases? Are his notes really stored inside that metal chest?
Absolutely, my dear madam. Absolutely. So, where's your partner now? We rarely meet. You see, he lives on the other side of the world. Yep, Mikotoba. But if this autopsy report and the records of all your old cases were penned by the same hand, and if the autopsy report was written, though not signed, by your famous partner, there would be only one logical conclusion. Pray, impress me. Your partner would have to be Eugene Mikotoba. In other words, Miss Susato's father. Upon my word, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes? You are coming along wonderfully. You have hit upon the method at last. You've finally grasped the art of deduction. You mean to say... Allow me to introduce you. To my great friend and partner, Mikotoba. Professor Mikotoba? Well then.
Does this mean that you're the real Dr. Wilson?
No, my dear. I'm still my old self, Eugene Mikotoba, your father.
Oh, of course.
This is obviously too much for Susato-san to take in. I must say, though, how my old friend has attained worldwide celebrity as a great mystery solver is the greatest mystery of all. I still remember the first time we met. Ah, pray remind me, when was it again, Mikotoba? 16 years ago, Sholmes. Ah, yes, quite, 16 years ago. I just arrived from Japan with Seishiro and Genshin. I was in charge of lodgings close to the capital, some comfortable rooms at a reasonable price. But rents are devilishly high in that particular area. That's right, so I decided I needed someone there to share the lodgings and the expense. And was fortunate enough to be introduced to Sholmes, who found himself in a similar situation. I was a callow fellow back then, a mere shadow of the great detective you see before you now. I was working at the hospital's chemical laboratory at the time, indulging my curiosities for little gain. And the situation of our cohabitation led to us perusing cases together, you see. Hard to believe it was a mere 6 years. We had a great many adventures. But in the last year of Mikotoba's stay in Britain, and most infamous of cases presented itself. The case with which you've become rather familiar yourselves, the professor killings. After the trial, Seishiro and I were summoned back home. Hardly surprising given the circumstances. So there you have it. And as you know, All the details recorded by my trusty chronicler remain in that metal chest. So that's why he went to go check the chest, because he wanted to reminisce about old times. And he got fucking socked in the face for it. This is just amazing. Professor Mikotoba really is Mr. Sholmes' famous partner. So now I gotta think back and go over all of the things that I was iffy about with him and how that blends in to everything.
Father.
Goodness, my dear, what a cutting look.
As your daughter, I'm very proud to learn that you were the great detective's great partner. But nevertheless, there's another mystery that I really must ask you to explain now.
I think she's going to do it for me. And that is?
You know very well what it is. The unresolved matter of Iris's father.
Ah, of course. I'd almost forgotten about that one. How did you forget about... I should have seen this coming, I suppose. Ooh, getting into the heart of it.
Iris told us that all the notes about the great detective's adventures that are in that metal chest were written by her father. Isn't that correct, Mr. Sholmes?
That is indeed what I told young Iris.
But if you're Mr. Sholmes' partner, Father, and you wrote all those case notes, then Iris's father...
No, that is not true.
Must be you!
Ah! Upon my word, Miss Susato. You are coming along wonderfully as well. You too have hit upon the method at last. You finally grasped the art of deduction. He's like, wait a minute. What?
What you've always told me, Father, is that my mother died when I was born 16 years ago.
Oh, that's true.
And you left me in grandmother's care whilst you embarked on your study tour of Britain. And I've always accepted that. But all this about young Iris.
Ooh, there it is, Susato-san's ice-cold stare. No, now hold on a minute. It was very complicated. I mean, it's really not what you think.
Then perhaps you'd like to explain exactly what it is?
There it is. Now the eyes go from ice cold to red hot just before she... No, really, you've got the wrong end of the stick. Sholmes, say something, man. He's gonna bolt. That's quite enough, my fiery fellows. Mr. Sholmes, when did he get all dressed up? Whilst I don't like to interrupt this exciting exploration of the past, Mikotoba and I have an urgent matter that requires a short excursion.
But it's very late, Mr. Sholmes. Where must you go?
Why, my dear madam, is that not obvious? My partner and I must pursue our natural enemies. So, get your coat, Mikotoba. The game is afoot. But Sholmes, I really must give Susato a full explanation, I think. Later, my dear fellow, later. Our carriage awaits us downstairs already. Deadbeat Dad Duo, away! You haven't changed one iota, have you? I mean, really. I visit our home after 10 long years. And when I open that chest in a fit of nostalgia, I quite inexplicably pass out. And as if that wasn't enough, when I eventually regain consciousness, I'm plunged straight into all of this.
Father, please. Go with Mr. Sholmes now.
What?
I've no doubt that whatever happened, you were acting in everyone's best interest.
This music, though.
I trust you, completely.
Susato.
And sending the great detective and his great partner off on renewed adventures together is more than I could have hoped for in my wildest dreams.
Very well then. We'll speak again later. So, I believe your own work is done for the day. I wish you the best of luck for tomorrow. Yes, Naruhodo. Good luck in battle. And in reaching a decision. A decision about whether to go back to Japan, I suppose.
So much happened that day that I barely knew what to do with myself. It would only be later that I'd come to realize how amidst the chaos I'd unleashed were all the clues I needed to finally unearth the truth, and that all the turmoil was necessary to give me the resolve to see everything through.
Yay! Investigation done! Oh boy! We still haven't really told Iris about her father, unfortunately. I suppose that will come up. Maybe not this trial. Don't know. The resolve of Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Interesting. Oh, shit. It says final. Goddamn. I did not expect this. Huh. So does that mean that this is the last trial? It just ends with an investigation, and then we just go straight into the final trial? Hold on, I gotta check. Oh, it really is, huh? So that's the end of episode 4, I guess. And then we have final chapter, the resolve of Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Goddamn, I did not expect that, actually. But with that being said, that's going to be it for this one. It definitely ran over a little bit, but in the next episode, we begin the final chapter, which will probably just be a trial, but the final chapter of Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. It's been a long journey, but we're finally here. Oh boy, it's going to feel bittersweet when this one ends. But anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. Like the video if you liked it, and leave a comment down below talking about how excited you also are for the finale of Great Ace Attorney. And that's going to be it for now. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.